Welcome to CBC Windsor News at 6. I'm Meg Roberts. Thanks so much for spending part of your evening with us tonight. We had spring in the winter and now winter in the spring. Despite lots of groans, today we found some happy campers. Plus, the federal government has announced it will cap the number of temporary foreign workers, concerning for one industry in the region, and it's not the greenhouse operators. And Premier Doug Ford is doubling down on his stance against fourplexes, which has started a fight towards solving the affordable housing crisis. The first weekend of the spring started with a blanket of snow, about 10 centimeters falling in parts of Windsor today. We've heard lots of groans today, but the CBC's Chris Ensing found some who are loving it.
A snowy start to spring, and scenes some of us wanted to leave behind. Shoveling, salting, and scraping our way to work. But some looked outside and saw fun.
Cold but nice. There's more snow in the city, so we were kind of bummed out when we got here, but we can still go down it, so.
Over at Ojibwe, the snow met by shell-shocked silence. Quick question here, is it still turtleneck weather? Reverting back to sluggish hibernation habits, not an option for all of us. Others, they really dig it. You wake up this morning, Joe, you look outside, snowflakes are coming down. What are you thinking?
Well, maybe the last day of this kind of weather for my dogs. Yeah.
What kind of year has it been?
A bad one. Yeah, for the dogs. Yeah. For at least these kind of dogs.
Who do we got out there having fun?
My dogs. Yeah, he loves snow. And this is the only reason why I'm here for, because before it melts, I wanted him to enjoy properly. He's having his life right now. Look at him.
What do you say to people who are waking up, they see the snow and they're like, forget today, I don't like it?
Just enjoy the snow. We didn't even had any snow this year, so whatever we had is good. March
has been a month of highs and now lows, making it hard to keep some hobbies going. How do you feel about that, the ups and downs of living in Windsor?
I'm not very happy about it also, because I was planning on starting a garden, but now there's more frost, so just delay.
This should be over soon. We're expected to swing from -4 last night to positive temperatures in the mid-double digits on Monday. Chris Ensing, CBC News, Windsor.
The federal government has announced a cap on temporary foreign workers for some sectors. It won't apply to local agriculture. But as Dale Molnar reports, the region has one industry concerned.
The temporary foreign worker program is a last resort. We expect businesses and business owners to exhaust every option and work to prioritize workers here in Canada before applying for temporary foreign workers.
The federal government allowed companies to bring in more foreign workers to make up for higher unemployment levels, but now that those are falling and the effect of the pandemic is waning, the government is now ending the program and capping the number of foreign workers most sectors can hire to 20%. But the construction and health sectors can remain at 30%, and seasonal industries such as agriculture, fishing, and tourism are exempted during their peak seasons. The food and beverage sector includes meat processing and fruit and vegetable processing, and the CEO of Food and Beverage Ontario says they will be impacted by the new cap.
We don't use as many temporary foreign workers as primary agriculture does, but still we use a significant number in some of these companies, and it's going to take time for this to work its way through the system, but this is not being seen as positive. Labor has been our number one challenge.
Conway says they are still trying to assess the impact the new cap will have. Meanwhile, the greenhouse industry in Essex County brings in workers through programs that weren't affected by the cap, but employers will have to do assessments every 6 months to ensure they have exhausted efforts to hire Canadians first. For the greenhouse industry, it's more red tape, but the impact is minimal.
It's unfortunate that we can't find Canadian workers to work in agriculture and support farming. In the Essex County area alone, we bring in approximately 8,400 workers. And that's potentially 8,400 workers that could be domestic workers, are legally entitled to work in Canada. Across Ontario, we have over 12,000 workers coming into this country to support food security.
A representative for the United Food and Commercial Workers Union says the cutting back of foreign workers will impact local economies and families of workers in the southern countries. and he'd like to see fewer restrictions on the workers while they are here.
This is sad news for thousands of families in the Global South, as coming to Canada is their opportunity to overcome poverty.
CBC News has reached out to the Employment Ministry for comment. The hiring cap of 20% comes into effect on May 1st. Dale Molnar, CBC News, Windsor.
A 7-car pileup closed a portion of Highway 401 in Chatham-Kent this afternoon. This after Environment Canada issued a travel advisory for the region. OPP from Chatham and St. Thomas responded to the crash around 11 a.m. near the 125-kilometer marker. Police say inclement weather caused extremely poor driving conditions. The crash included 4 commercial vehicles and 4 cars. One of those cars was carrying 7 people, 2 of whom needed to be extradited by West Elgin Fire Services. Those 7 occupants were taken to hospital for injuries not considered to be life-threatening. No other injuries were reported. The highway has since reopened. Fourplexes have been a topic that's come up locally quite a bit over the last few months. Now debate is happening at the provincial level. For the second straight day, the Premier was asked about fourplexes during a housing-related announcement. It's something he says won't solve Ontario's housing crisis. Queen's Park reporter Lorenda Redekop now with more on the fight over fourplexes.
Good morning, everyone.
It was another day of posing beside a giant check for the Premier, rewarding another city for meeting their housing target. Doug Ford was also asked about fourplexes and said this.
This is a no-brainer. You don't put 4, 6, 8-story buildings in the middle of a community of single-dwelling homes.
He also attacked the Liberal leader, who supports 4 units on a property up to 4 stories, not 6 or 8.
Bonnie Crombie can run on that. I'll run on protecting communities, and we'll see what the results are.
So what is a fourplex?
We've taken off the front porch.
This single-family home is in the process of being turned into one, allowed under a city bylaw.
And we've got the 3 stories here.
We've got the 3 stories. I mean, it's barely 3 stories because the third story is under the roof.
The height won't change once there are 4 separate units here.
And it'll go under the landing and in.
There'll be 2 entrances at the front.
And they'll come down a set of stairs here and into their apartment. And then the person who lives here will come into a garden here and then come up and over.
The other 2 at the back.
It's not going to be any bigger. It's not going to look like an apartment building. It's actually going to look like a Victorian home in Toronto.
The project is just getting underway. The main floor will be turned into a 2-bedroom apartment. Even before the demolition started here, the basement was unlivable.
A very large open stair. There'll be windows over here, and there'll be a kitchen, living room, dining room here.
It'll be turned into a 1-bedroom apartment, thankfully with much higher ceilings. That crawl space farther down, another 1-bedroom unit. Then heading to the 2nd floor, the home is still being lived in. Half home, half construction site. Maybe not the most comfortable living situation right now, and a bit chilly inside. But the homeowner believes in the idea, especially when more housing is needed.
We want other people to be able to live in this neighborhood who may not be able to afford a single detached house, but who may need a place to live for a few years as they get settled, or if they've got a change in their lives. And so I think for me that is fundamentally important. And the way out of the housing supply crisis is to build lots of different kinds of building typologies.
So this will be the entrance to
the architect wants to clear up any misconceptions about this type of housing.
So a fourplex can now be 1 meter higher than a normal house, but that's just to help with getting extra insulation and some things on the roof. We're not doing additional stories. We would never, very rarely would we do anything more than 3 stories that way.
And he says when it's finished, the space will be suitable for around 10 people instead of 3 or 4. The work is just getting started. It's expected to take around a year to finish. Lorenda Redekop, CBC News, Toronto.
The Windsor-Essex County Health Unit has agreed to push the province on streamlining the process of reporting vaccinations. At last night's board meeting, members agreed to send a letter to the province asking for the health unit to report immunizations directly to the health unit to take the responsibility off parents.
If it's happened on real time with the physicians or healthcare provider who does on time, I think that reduces the missed opportunities in terms of reporting, and it's more streamlined in that sense. This is the time that we thought, based on the threats to the public, it's time to bring it to the board and ask for approval for that.
Kathleen Wynne's government had looked at making this a rule, but it was put on pause in 2018 when Doug Ford took over. As of March 20th, the health unit says 61 elementary students are still suspended from school due to incomplete records. That's down from 860 students who were suspended earlier this month. The health unit started suspending kids on March 1st. An announcement in Detroit today that some travelers on this side of the border might appreciate. A low-cost bus from downtown Detroit to Detroit Metropolitan Airport. The Detroit Air Express officially launches this coming Monday. The pilot program will run 365 days of the year. Tickets purchased in advance will cost $6, and tickets purchased at time of board will cost $8. Michigan's infrastructure department said in a press release it's hoping to increase regional economic development while reducing Michigan's carbon footprint. Multiple shots were fired at a house on Howard Avenue near Hannah Street East. The incident was called in around 9 p.m. last night, according to police. Police located damage to the exterior of a house as well as several empty shell casings nearby. Police are asking people who live along Howard between Shepherd and north of Tecumseh Road East to check their camera for anything that may be relevant to the case. Police in Ontario and Quebec have arrested 31 auto theft suspects in an interprovincial operation dubbed Project Volcano. Police say many were also wanted for other offenses.
In many cases, they were wanted not only for auto theft, but also for other many serious offenses, including possession of a loaded firearm, dangerous operation of a motor vehicle, and impaired driving.
Police say they're seeing a trend where thieves are offending in Ontario while residing in Quebec. Ontario Provincial Police say that between 2021 and 2023, violent carjackings and home invasions have increased over 200%. The OPP says it's impacting drivers at an unprecedented rate, with almost 3,000 vehicles stolen across Ontario in just the past 7 weeks. The 2024 Juno Awards is taking place this Sunday, featuring some of Canada's biggest talents in music, including a few local Windsor-Essex musicians and artists. Eli Glasner is inside Halifax's Scotiabank Centre for a preview of the show.
Toronto is a city that is filled with music, but Halifax might not be as big, but it knows how to have a party. And the Juno Awards have not been in Halifax in 18 years, so this is quite a homecoming. We are here at the Scotiabank Centre in the middle of Halifax, and that is the stage where the party is going to happen on Sunday night with artists like Charlotte Cardin, with artists such as Toronto's very own The Beaches, who you know are going to be rocking out with their song Blame Brett. Another big artist just up the road from Ottawa, Ontario, is a guy named Talk. He had a song called Runaway to Mars that went viral. Let me give you a little taste, a little appetizer of what he's going to sound like Sunday night. Epic voice echoing in this arena. Wonderful stuff. We had a chance to talk to this artist who wrote that song and his first album, and now with 5 nominations during the pandemic, talking to us about how it feels, all that love and validation from the Junos.
I always dreamed of it, and I always hoped for it. And as a Canadian artist, this is kind of like the big deal and the big thing.
Yeah.
And to have 5 nominations in the first year I've been nominated has been amazing. And all the opportunities tonight, the block party and Sunday and the gala tomorrow, I'm definitely trying to soak it all in, but things are moving quick, so I'm just trying to have fun.
I want to talk about the host. Again, back to Toronto, our very own Nelly Furtado. We had a chance to talk to the creative producer of the show who gave us a tease of what to expect from Nelly and how the show will begin.
We have an incredible opening.
Yeah.
Our host will be obviously leading us off the top of the show, and she is a fantastic artist. She came in last night, and she just did her walkthrough rehearsals, and it's amazing. The music's incredible. She'll be back to rehearse tomorrow, and I think it's a great way to start the show. It's a powerhouse moment. It's all of her incredible songs together, and really fantastic. So she will really create the energy for us for the night, and it really is her party. And it's her show.
That is a little preview of the Junos with Nelly Furtado. Sounds like a very high energy opening. Cannot wait to see it.
Some snow-covered roofs out there this evening, making for a frosty-looking scene. Your weekend weather forecast coming up after the break. Colette, it was really coming down this morning, and in fact, I don't know if we've seen it come down that hard all winter, and here we are in spring. It was pretty precipitation-free this afternoon. Is that it? Or are we looking at more?
Yeah, we're not quite through with this, Meg, but you know, the snowfall totals for Windsor will be a little bit lower, so there's a bit more to come, a bit further north. Further east, a little more than a bit to come. And so I'm going to walk you through all the things that we're looking at. But you're quite right there, Meg. Yes, up until about 1 o'clock, still that light to moderate snow, and then we've had that nice break. The snowfall warning, if you are going to be on the roads traveling this evening, headed towards the Golden Horseshoe, that's where the warnings are with the higher amounts. Environment Canada has not included beyond Hamilton, but I will just tell you the Niagara region, I think after about midnight tonight to about 4 a.m., they may be getting some more intense snow in there, and that warning may get extended actually to at least a portion of that area. The weather advisory continues because even with some lighter snow, it can make those roadways slick and a little bit of wind blowing it around, reducing visibility. You know the drill here. The temperatures, we know we have the cold enough air for this to be snowfall, so we're going to add some more moisture, which I'll show you in a moment, coming towards us, and that's why I'm thinking of some of that enhancement, again, over towards the Niagara region. Our wind chills, those are significant enough. It has been a chilly day. That easterly breeze coming into Windsor around 25 kilometers an hour. It turns to the north, though, for tomorrow, and so there will continue to be a wind chill and a cool feel, even though the temperatures will be responding rather nicely because we're going to get some sun coming back. Yes, I said sun coming back into at least a bit of it into Saturday. So let's roll you through and show you on the radar. This is why there are more intense snowfall rates kind of to the north here around Sarnia. Other areas have seen some lake enhancement off Lake Ontario earlier. Nice break, though, with that heavier band to the north, but there's more moisture to come, and that band still has to drop south and slide through southwestern Ontario, and that's why we'll still see some more coming in this evening for Windsor, and then it's really gone by late evening. But I do want to bring your attention to some of this is the moisture that's going to tie into what's happening in Ontario. This moisture is all going to come together with that cold air, and it's headed along the eastern seaboard towards the Maritimes. So flooding, coastal flooding along the eastern seaboard, but for New Brunswick, snowfall warnings there, 40, 50 centimeters, in some cases locally, perhaps as much as 80 centimeters. So talk about a spring winter-like storm. We're getting off easy because there's the moisture feeding in there, and then there's that moisture that's going to come up the eastern seaboard. Heavier snowfall amounts over towards Toronto region. There's that band that's going to kind of drop through, nothing too significant, probably just another centimeter or two at best that will come through southwestern Ontario at best, so the snowfall rates will be lower. Then we get into some of that sunshine. The totals in some areas locally could be as much, and this is putting together from this morning plus what's to come, up to 7. I really think we're going to be on the lower end of that, though, in most cases, and more in that 3 to 5 centimeter range when we put it together with what's to come this evening, because there's not much left. -4 overnight tonight for that overnight temperature, but feeling colder. And of course, we get to flip things, Meg, right around. Let's just add 10 to it by the time we get to the beginning of next week, shall we?
We shall. Thanks so much for that, Colette.
Yes, you're welcome.
Coming up, we introduce you to a man with a unique job, one that gamers across the country could appreciate. Stay tuned. We have an update on the health of Catherine, the Princess of Wales. She has announced that she has cancer. Catherine appeared in a video released earlier today. Here is some of what she said.
In January, I underwent major abdominal surgery in London, and at the time, it was thought that my condition was non-cancerous. The surgery was successful. However, tests after the operation found cancer had been present. My medical team therefore advised that I should undergo a course of preventative chemotherapy, and I'm now in the early stages of that treatment.
Catherine said the diagnosis came as a huge shock and that she and Prince William have been doing everything they can to manage it privately for the sake of their young family. Catherine went on to say it has taken time to recover from major surgery and for her and William to explain it to their 3 children in an appropriate way and reassure them that their mother is going to be okay. Catherine also asked for privacy as she completes her treatment. The type of cancer was not disclosed. We want to introduce you now to an Ontario man with a unique job. Nick Angel has not 1 or 2, but 60 arcade games in his basement, and through the help of the internet, he now makes a living repairing them for others. We visited Angel in his Georgetown home to see these games for ourselves.
Everybody's always amazed. I guess most people haven't seen a big room full of working pinball machines and fun electronic stuff. Hi, my name is Nick Angel. I am a pinball addict. Alexa, turn on all games. When I was a kid, I loved arcade machines and I loved hanging out in arcades, and I promised myself when I got my first house, I would get an arcade machine of my very own, which was a mind-blowing idea at the time, and that's what I did. As soon as I had my first house, I went to an arcade auction, found out how to buy them, brought one home, and then suddenly I had 20. This Twilight Zone machine is the first machine I ever bought, and then one day I got my first pinball machine, and I love those even more. It didn't work. It had 100 things wrong with it, which was typical of games in the auction back then. I learned how to fix machines on this game, actually. I love how they work and getting into them and fixing them and tweaking them, making them play better. This is a 1978 Gottlieb roller disco. One of the things that's really fun is you take an old, simple pinball machine from, let's say, the 1970s, which is very basic. One ball just has beeps and boops or chimes and no ramps or anything like that. And then we hot rod the game, so we powder coated a fun color and we put new LED lighting in it. And then sometimes I'll even add a modern music player and an amplifier system and additional lighting and lasers and whatever I can dream of. Now I'm trying to get more into it as a business because I've had lots of people asking me to get their machines fixed, or where can I buy one, or can you restore this old thing I have in the basement. There's a lot of demand for these machines, especially the older ones, and a lot of demand for people that can fix them, and there's a lot of broken ones out there. We're going to help people fix them all.
A species conservation program in Bolivia appears to be bearing fruit. These are Andine bears, the inspiration behind the fictional bear named Paddington. But unlike the famous character, they don't travel as far as London. Using a trap camera, conservationists have spotted at least 60 of these bears, offering hope for the population. That's it for CBC Windsor News. Thank you so much for tuning in. Looking forward to seeing you back here next week.